Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemens, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemens, DC. We are live, and I'm so glad we're back, and we're live, and we're in the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas. We're on the radio at 98.7 FM. We're Lubbock, wherever we are. Walk by Faith. Yes, we're on 1420 AM. We're on 987radio.com. We're on social media tonight. I got to give just a little bit of an apology to all of our radio listeners last night. We did a show, we did it live. It just didn't come to you. We had a technical glitch last night, and I don't know what happened, but I think we're on tonight. I think everything is back to normal, and we're on like we're supposed to be. So, but I don't know sometimes it happens. That's what you do. So what we have to deal with when we do live radio shows. And I don't know what it was. I was logged in, and I could see my little microphone moving, but nothing came through. So I was on the phone this morning with Bob. He got us straightened out, and now we're back. And so maybe it's just a fluke deal, and hopefully it won't happen again. So thank you guys for listening to us tonight. I hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend. We did a whole Memorial Day show yesterday. I did a good Memorial Day show last night on the radio. We didn't have a social media show, but we had a show on the radio, and I did Memorial Day. I read out of the Body by Bill Bryson. Great book. If you guys haven't read it, I've mentioned it before on the show. If you haven't read it, it's good. It's fun to read. Bill Bryson's a really funny dude. He's got lots of information in there about health and your body, and every part of your body goes through the whole thing. And so I just read some stuff on like the guy who created Down syndrome and Broca's area of the brain, and I was reading through that, and then I did the second half of the show was all the memorial part of what I tried to do is take. I wasn't by any means trying to be disrespectful. I gave my not condolences, but appreciation to the people that served our country, and for Memorial Day. The reason we did a history on Memorial Day last night. I know no one heard it. I was the only one that heard it. It was a pretty good show, actually. But we did the history at the beginning, talked about Memorial Day and all the people in Civil War and all that. And then in the second part, I just thought we would take, how we do our Monday night shows where we take health to church. And so I thought, well, we'll just take Memorial Day to health. And then I just talked about some of the people that were in my life that were Memorial Day people. And it was talked about my brother-in-law. I talked about Dr. Parker at Parker College. I talked about Dee Dee Palmer and B.J. Palmer, and just the whole slew. It was the second half of the show was good, but nobody heard it except for me. So maybe one of these days we'll try it and we'll do it again, and we'll see what we come up with. But I'm glad to be back. Those 3-day weekends they're nice, but man, it's so much it's so much fun what I do, being a wellness chiropractor and getting to get back in the office and getting to get back with people. Being at home and cleaning off the porch and doing all that stuff, it's just not inspiring to me. And so I am truly blessed to get to do what I do and get to be back with you guys and get to be back in the office and adjust patients today. And so that I just thought I would take tonight and go through. I just have a bunch of different thoughts about the weekend. I have a bunch of different thoughts about health, and I have a bunch of different thoughts tonight about different conversations that I had. And I just thought I'd get back. I just want to jump right back into them, and we just kind of go through all of those things. So that's what the show is going to be about tonight. If you guys want to text me, you can text me at 806-794-0400. That's our text line, 806-794-0400. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have during the show if I can get to them, if I know the answers. If I don't know the answers, I'll wait till the end of the show. You can send me a message on Facebook, YouTube, or X. We are live on all those stations tonight. So if you got some sort of comment, question, something that's bugging you, something you want to know, something you don't understand, um, you can send me a message. If you want to talk about something, you got a topic you want to talk about, you want to talk about supplements, we can talk about that. We can talk about exercise, anything that has to do with health, we can talk about it. So if you want to send me a text, 806-794-0400 is our text line as well. Speaking of supplements, hey, if you guys are interested and you want to get some supplements, you can go to the you want to get a good quality supplement from Standard Process, you can go to therock.standardprocess.com and you can get the whole line of Standard Process supplements that are available at therock.standardprocess.com if you're interested in that. If you just want to get them yourself, have them shipped to your house, you don't want to, and you want to know for sure that you're getting a good quality supplement, then that's one place you can get them. And if you have any questions about that, you want me to help you, please send me a message. I'd be glad to help you out as far as that goes too. So let's get into it. I've got just a whole bunch of different things, but the first one I'm going to start with is something that I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's controversial to some people. Let me rephrase that sentence. I don't care if it's controversial. I don't care about talking about a subject that's controversial if it means that it's going to help you and your family live a healthier life. I've gotten over that in my lifetime. I've gotten over the fear of that or the hesitancy or whatever that might go along with something like that. And I'll tell you straight up on these things that are they're just people are. I don't know how to say it. People get very emotional about things like COVID, shots, vaccinations, all that sort of thing. Just came out today. This article came out today. CDC will stop recommending COVID-19 shots to healthy children and pregnant women, RFK Jr. says. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention will no longer be recommending routine COVID-19 shots to healthy children and pregnant women. U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. announced the changes in a video posted on X Tuesday. As of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC's recommended immunization schedule, Kennedy said in the video. Pregnancy is listed on the CDC's website as a risk factor for complications from COVID-19. Children underlying medical conditions are also considered at high risk for severe illness. U.S. Food and Drug Administration Commissioner and National Institutes of Health Director appeared with Kennedy in the video. The change to the CDC immunization schedule comes as the federal administration reworks its COVID-19 vaccine policies. Last week, the FDA announced it's limiting approval to routine COVID shots to older Americans and people with underlying medical conditions. So that's news. That's news. Just wanted you to know that they're not recommending it for pregnant girls and they're not recommending it for kids, healthy kids, because healthy kids handle it. Healthy kids, but that's tricky right there, right? As of today, the COVID vaccine for healthy children and healthy pregnant women has been removed from the CDC's recommended immunization schedule. The question is, what's a healthy child? And what is a healthy pregnant lady? Right? That's a really, really good question. Let me see if I can, let me just show you this. See if I can pull this up right quick because, what if we just got healthy? Yeah, this was an article. This was something that I pulled up because you got to be careful with this. This is a legitimate issue as far as I'm concerned. Because the definition of health, and I'm not going to get deep into omega-3s tonight. Well, I mean, why would I do that? Everybody on watching the show understands omega-3s, but I posted this back during COVID. It says, what if we just got healthy? When you have a respiratory virus, you want your inflammation down. You want your inflammation down, period. Like you really want to control your inflammation. That's the two things about health. If we've been doing this now, what, a month, a year and 8 months, almost a year and 9 months, and in that time, you guys have heard me talk about a lot of things. Like we've got we've gone we've gone over almost everything I know, and then done it twice or three times, right? You guys have heard me talk about lots and lots of things. And so when I say that, if I could narrow it down to two things, if you ask me, Jason, what are two things that I could do to make myself, if I'm only going to do two things, so what are you going to tell me to help me make sure that I'm healthy, or I make myself healthier? Now, you can't just do two things and make yourself healthy, but you can make yourself healthier, and you can cover a lot of ground. You can cover a lot of ground with two things. What are they? You guys probably know the answers to this question, right? Number one, control your insulin. Number two, control your omega-6-3 ratio. Like, if you did those two things, you would really be ahead of the game. You'd be way ahead of the game just by taking care of those. So you got to be careful. Whoops, I lost it. You got to be careful when you see an article like this and it says healthy children. We're no longer going to give we're not going to recommend the COVID vaccine to healthy children. Okay, but define healthy children, because that's the problem. A lot of people said this during COVID. They said that I would read articles over and over again. I would see these events take place. And when you're talking about something like this, obviously it's not absolute in these conversations. It's not an absolute. There are outliers, but for the most part, what I would see someone say that this person died of COVID and they were perfectly healthy. And I was like, no, they didn't. I don't believe that. I don't believe perfectly healthy, because I have a different definition of healthy. Like, there was a kid around here close to Lubbock and they said he was perfectly healthy and he died of COVID. And I went to this kid's Facebook page, and one of the first pictures on this kid's Facebook page was a table of alcohol. He had whiskey and all kinds of stuff on this table that he was showing off. It was one of his pictures of the alcohol on this page. Now, just because he didn't have a diagnosis, just because he wasn't under medical care of some sort of diagnosis, just because he wasn't using some sort of medication to treat some sort of condition, doesn't mean that he was healthy, right? So if you look at this chart, this is a chart of just the omega-3 scores and where people fall. And if we say that you need to be under 5, or you need to be on your omega-6, the arachidonic acid to EPA ratio, if we say that, like, where do people fall in this? The majority of people, they fall above that. There's a whole lot of people. If I say you got to be 3 to 1 or less, here's the rate. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is 10 people. I just picked them and looked at them during COVID. There was 10 people right there, and I said, hey, look, the arachidonic acid to EPA ratio needs to be 3 to 1 or less. I had one person in that category. I had one person in the category of omega-6-3 ratio of 5 to 1 or less. I had one person in that category. And this omega-3 index, 8.2. So that one person, and you look at all these other people. Now look at these arachidonic acid to EPA ratios. We got 9.6, we got 20.4, we got 25.2, 35, 21, 25, 22, 25. The average American person is 25 to 1. So what this chart right here says is that what it's saying is this person's not healthy. This person's not healthy. You can't. My dad, bless his heart, he said this one time to me. I drove all the way across Texas and got to Athens late at night. I've told you guys this story lots of times, I'm sure. I got all the way across Texas and I sat down to eat. Mom had supper ready. It was probably 8 o'clock. And Dad said, how's business? And I said, well, we're behind. There's 300,000 people in my county, and they're not going to get adjusted this week. And he looked at me and he said, Jason, most people are healthy. And I was so mad. I almost just got up and drove all the way back to Lubbock. I said, Dad, name one person you know that's healthy. Name one person that you know. And he didn't say anything else after that. I was like, come on. Yeah, I'm not, and I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad at my dad about it. There's no issues with it or anything like that. It was like the definition, right? We're not going to, the article said, we're not going to make recommendations of the COVID vaccine for healthy kids. Yeah. If your kids are inflamed, then they're not healthy. And that's something that I think is important. So enough on that, right? I just thought I'd share that with you. Got to get those kids' inflammation down. We really want to make sure that they get their inflammation down. We don't want inflammation, right? It causes problems. And I actually have another little graph up article that's right here, and I was going to get to it last, but it's just perfect. So we'll get to it now. And this is just some of the things that lead to inflammation, and then what happens after that, right? Leaky gut. I was looking at something last week. Ibuprofen. I don't remember that guy's name. There's a guy that is a medical doctor that does a lot of Instagram stuff, and he was talking about ibuprofen. And one of the things he was talking about with ibuprofen was leaky gut, that it immediately causes a leaky gut problem. And we've talked about that. If you have a leaky gut situation, then things that are not supposed to get into your body get into your body. And now your body has to deal with them. And you'll get, infection, trauma, your AG/AB ratio, chemicals, glycation, and you got to watch out for grilling. One of the things that we're going to do this summer is do a lot of grilling. That black mark on that charred mark on that grill, that stuff is not necessarily good for us to eat. So watch out how you're grilling. Well, I'll get into that later this week because I'm going to talk about grilling a little bit more. But free radicals, 6-3 ratio, all these things cause inflammation. And then the inflammation causes the fibrosis, the scar tissue, the granulation, the amyloid, the tau, all those sort of things. The fibrosis and scar tissue were a little stiffer. This is a really good day to analyze that. Like how many people feel a little bit more tired today? How many people feel a little bit more sluggish today? How many people are dealing with joint pain today? Like your body hurts a little bit more today than it did last week because of what we did over the weekend, right? So a lot of the foods that we ate over Memorial Day, what did I eat on Memorial Day? I ate scrambled eggs and sausage with raspberries and blueberries and pistachios and macadamia. That's what I had for breakfast. And then I didn't have lunch. And then we grilled chicken. We got a new grill. I'm going to talk about that later on. But we grilled some chicken out. It was delicious. And we had some sweet potatoes and a couple slices of cantaloupe that went along with that. It was great. Like that was my Memorial Day food. And I feel great. I feel great today. We got up this morning, Leslie and I came up here to the office, and we got up this morning and got a good workout in. And I was just thinking about, as I was working through my day, I was actually thinking, two things happened. I thought about how good I slept last night because I really did sleep well. And then today I just thought to myself how good I feel today. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on down the road, about what some of the things that I've changed in my own personal diet. I'm kind of waiting on the outcome to see what's going on. But yeah, it's just like, but I know that in past years when I spent yesterday eating ice cream and, crumble cookies and bundt cakes and all of that stuff and that people eat, on Memorial Day, the next day you wake up and your hands are all stiff, your joints are swollen, and your hands are stiff, and your body's not feeling good. It's like, yeah, that is way a lot of people are feeling today. And what else did we do this weekend? A lot of us that we got a little extra time off, we got out of our routine, right? That's another thing that we did this weekend is we got out of our routine. And we started, it starts to wear on you after about that third day. Everybody gets just a little fussy sometimes. Maybe just in my house. Maybe it's not in your house. But in my house, we do better if we're in a good routine. That's why it's like, hey, let's get back to work. Let's get back in here. Let's get back and do what we do. And maybe that's why this day I felt so good all day long, is because I got back in my routine. But we don't want to be inflamed, right? We don't want that. The fibrosis causes the scar tissue, and then we lose the movement. That was one of the conversations I had today was on movement. So one of my guys, I adjusted him, and I said, we got some pretty good movement in there. And then we were doing our eyes, where we were working, and we were turning our head, and we were working on range of motion, neurological activity after the adjustment. And I said, we got some pretty good movement in there today. And he was like, yep. And he's an older guy, and his neck is a little jacked up, and his head's on crooked. And so he's got this translation. His head's on crooked one way, and then it translates kind of the other way. So his neck has like a little. It's unfortunate because I wish I had caught him years ago. But that little head tilt, and I told him, I said, hey, we're trying to get your head on straight. And he's like, well, I actually feel like I've got a little bit more range of motion. And I was like, that's really good. Range of motion is really good, right? We want to be able to move our joints because in order to fire our brain properly, we need to be able to move our joints. And if our joints are not moving properly, then we're not firing our brain properly. And if we're not firing our brain properly, then we're not setting our body in balance properly. So we need, remember, the brain is an input organ. It's vitally important that we remember that. The brain is receiving information, and then it's processing information, and then it's sending information back to the body. And in order to keep the body functioning properly, that's the whole subluxation right there. I mean, that's it. That is, man, we just kind of walked right into that one. But that is the subluxation. I changed the background on my screen, so sorry about that. But we've got the brain. We have the vertebra. We have the right side and we have the left side. And remember, we're getting this information that's traveling into the brain, to the right side, over to the left side, back and forth, going to the cerebellum, back, moving, going around. Now we got this symphony that's going on inside the brain. And then what happens? Then we get the information that's traveling back down. So we've got the information that's traveling up. And then we've got the information that's traveling down. In order to get the proper information to travel down, we've got to be able to get the proper information to travel up. Does that make sense? We need proper input in order to get proper output. And proper output means how you function. So you might ask yourself, like, how are you functioning? How do you feel? How's your body feel? Right? And that might be something that, like, hey, how is what's going on with you? Are you feeling good? Are you functioning good? Do you like what's going on with the way that your body is moving? Do you feel good about the Um, just everyday activities. Do you feel good from all of your activities in your body? Is your digestion good? Is your sleep good? Are your thoughts good? Do you move good? Can you get up and down from a chair good? Can you lean over and tie your shoes and breathe? There's a lot of things, right? There's a lot of important situations that are going on in your body that you want to function. And what you want is you want proper input so that you can get proper output. So think about that. If you're stiff, if this person's neck is not moving, so now all of a sudden we've got this section of spine that's not moving properly. What is happening? We're altering the input. This input into the brain is being altered. So now it's not proper input. So now the brain is receiving the wrong pieces of information, and then the output becomes an issue because now it's not right either. And then you don't function properly. And then if you don't function properly, then your neck hurts. So, yeah. Hey, we got to take a break. Stick around with us. We got a whole bunch of thoughts on the other side of the break as well. So you got to stick around with us. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC, and we'll be right back right after these messages. And while they're on the break, hang on one second. Going to thanks. We had to take a little break right there just for a second. And now we're waiting on the commercials to finish on the radio. I had a conversation this morning with Bob at the radio station. I think we're going to change the format. We're going to work on it in the month of June, kind of change the format of the show just a little bit and see if it makes it a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to work on that. We're going to kick that off in July. I told him, I said, as long as y'all aren't going to kick me off the radio. He said, nope. As far as I learned, as far as I know, we're not going to. So, no, this is there's too much. It's too valuable to me, really. I just got to get better at it instead of stopping it. We just got to get better at it so that you guys enjoy the show more and so that you get more out of it. So we're not going to stop, I promise. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemens, DC, and we are talking about just health thoughts that I had today and different conversations that I had. And I had an aha moment today, and I really do love those aha moments. And and it really, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get an aha moment. You kind of need to hang on one second. There we go. Okay, just making sure that music was going to stop for you guys. When you're doing wellness stuff and you're trying to help yourself be healthier, then sometimes you have to hear things, you have to participate in them, you have to see how they work out good, you have to see how they work out bad, you have to kind of metabolize that information, you have to kind of keep going down the road a little bit further, and then if you get someone that kind of shows you what that means, and I don't know if it's just in health and wellness or not, but if you get someone that shows you what that means, then all of a sudden you have this aha moment. And in chiropractic, it took me 12 years to get it. Like, it literally, from the very first adjustment of my junior year in high school until so that was in sometime in the fall of 1987. And I went to work for my brother-in-law in the spring of 2000, in the spring of 2000. So from 1987 to the spring of 2000, I was involved in chiropractic. I was around chiropractic, but I wasn't committed to chiropractic, and I didn't understand chiropractic. And so I was a lot like a lot of people are out there. I didn't understand it at all. And when you don't understand something, you tend to say negative things about them. And that's kind of what I was doing for those first 12 years of being exposed to chiropractic. And so what I'm trying to do with our show, and one of the things is I'm trying to help you guys that are watching the show and listening to the show. I'm trying to help you move forward and fast forward that so that you can close the gap on time, that you don't have to take 12 years to get it. And so I had a new patient, and sometimes she watches the show, and I think it was a great moment, and that's why I'm sharing it tonight. But she had this aha moment, and it was all based on, like, I said, do you understand? Because we were talking about something, because her issue has gotten better, and I said, well, and there's three types of things. There's three issues. There's three areas of the body. There's one area of the body, and there's three issues that all are related to the same thing. And it's right foot pain. Right foot pain, right Achilles tendon pain, right plantar fasciitis. Anything that's it's like I'm having some issues with my right foot. Okay. Because the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to start changing your foot. You're going to start wearing different shoes. You're going to start looking at your foot. You're going to start rubbing your foot. You're going to start, wrapping your foot, all the things that might go on with your foot. And you'll try all kinds of things to solve your foot problem. But you won't get to the source of your foot problem. And you're going to get frustrated with that over time. And then the further you go down that road, the more drastic your measures become. We've had that experience before, right? Like we tried to work on something, it didn't work too good, and we tried to work on something, it didn't work too good, and then finally it's just like, just cut it off. Like, just replace it. Like, whatever. This is killing me. My foot is killing me. And that's fair. I think that's a fair process. I mean, I think it's a fair way. It makes sense. It's a logical sequence of things to say it started off with plantar fasciitis, and I can't even say that, or whatever it is, and it just moves me down the road, right? Because one of my guys is dealing with an Achilles problem, and it's like, and he wants to know, he's like, Doc, do you think this is plantar fasciitis or do you think it's an Achilles problem? And really, the honest to goodness truth about that is I don't really care. It's neither. It doesn't. That is not really the majority. That's not the main issue for me. It's not the fact that it's what it is. My issue is why is that happening? Why is it happening on the right foot, not the left foot? Have you ever injured the right foot? Nope. Then why is it happening on your right foot? Why is your right Achilles tendon pulling off of the bone? And if you guys ever seen Osgood Slaughter's Osgood Slaughter disease? See if I can find it. See if I can. Let me just see if I can find. Yeah, it's a good. This is a good little image right here. This comes from Dr. Carlos Godoy. drcarlosgodoy.com, and he just put this on there of this little picture, and I'm giving him credit for it, but I wanted to show it to you. You may be able to see it, but you guys can look it up. It's Osgood Slaughter's. And what happens is that you've got this patellar tendon, which is the tendon of your quadricep. And the tendon of your quadricep is coming down. Your kneecap is a sesamoid bone in the middle of that. It's coming over the top of your kneecap. So if you were to put your kneecap, if you were to touch your hand on your kneecap, just reach down on your knee, touch your kneecap, and then just follow right below it. Just go right towards your foot from your kneecap, and you'll run right into your tibia, and you'll run right into the insertion point. You can kind of even feel it right there. There's like a little knot, like a little raised area in the bone. If your legs are big, you might not feel the knot, but you can feel that tendon, and that tendon's going to attach right on that knot right there. And what happens in Osgood Slaughter's is the patellar tendon, the quadricep muscle, is pulling harder than the bone that it's attached to can handle. And when that happens, you create these little micro breaks, like these little micro fractures. You're pulling, it's called an avulsion fracture. You're pulling the bone. You may have seen it before where you have a attachment, like somebody's pulling on a chain. I've seen them. A pickup truck tries to pull something out of the mud or tries to pull an old tree stump out, and they hook a chain to the back of the pickup truck, and then the pickup truck takes off, and when it does, it just pulls the bumper off the back of the pickup truck. That old boy didn't work that through quite good enough, right? It's like he's like, oh man, I didn't figure on that happening. I didn't think it was going to pull the bumper off of my truck, right? That's what I'm talking about. If you had a tendon attached to a bone and the tendon is pulling on the bone, it's going to create an avulsion fracture, and then it's going to heal. And how's it going to heal? It's going to get inflamed, and then it's going to start to lay down calcium over the top of that bone. And now we're going to get this whole healing process that's going on. And what you end up with, first of all, you have very tender patellar attachments right underneath your kneecap. That bone is very tender. And then you get this knot over time. You get an increased amount of bone laid down right over the top of that attachment point to try to secure the attachment point. Right? That's an avulsion fracture of the patellar tendon, and it's called Osgood Slaughter's. You can look it up. Osgood, Osgood, and Slaughter, Schlatter, Osgood Slaughter disease. It happens a lot in kids. It happens a lot in kids that their quadricep muscles are pulling, and they're pulling on that bone, and it's causing that problem. Okay, it can happen anywhere in the body. It can happen on the knee, anywhere that you have a tendon attached to a bone. If that tendon is pulling on that bone, but it doesn't pull loose if the tendon doesn't pull loose from the bone and detach, then it may just pull the bone and pull a piece of the bone off, right? Okay. This could be happening on this Achilles I'm talking about. This Achilles has an attachment point on the back. And you can see, so if you, the back of the calf, the calf muscle, you've got the muscle up that's closer to your knee, right? So when you flex your calf, it balls up closer to the knee. And then down below, it turns into this long tendon. You got your Achilles tendon, and it attaches on the back of your calcaneus, your heel bone. So you got this long tendon that attaches to that heel bone, okay? What the problem in this particular issue is it's right on that attachment point. We've got swollen, inflamed problem right there on that attachment point. So the question is, okay, fine. If you want to know what it is, yes, I think it's the Achilles tendon, yes. But why is it the Achilles tendon? And why is it on the right side? That is a bigger question for me. Why is it happening, and why is it on the right side, right? So what would cause an avulsion fracture? Pulling the tendon off the bone. Contraction, muscle contraction, increased amount of tone, increased amount of muscle contraction in that calf, abnormal movement of the foot, abnormal movement of the foot and the knee, abnormal movement of the whole chain could be creating this problem on that Achilles. Why is that Achilles? Lack of movement in the foot, right? We've lost our flexibility in the foot itself. And so because we've lost the flexibility in the foot, now we've got this problem that's now we're pulling on the back of it, right? Those are the steps you got to go through. You got to go through and say, hey, why is this calf pulling right there? And when you answer that question, then it's like, hey, okay, for some reason, we have an increased amount of muscle tone on that right calf. So where would we start in functional neurology? Where would we start at the Rock Health and Wellness Center? Am I going to start in the calf and in the foot? No, not going to start in the calf and the foot. I'm going to start in the brain. And I'm going to start by trying to get the brain to fire properly. And I know you guys, I know you've heard it before. You've heard it 175 times. But 180 might be the one. That might be the time you get it. Because you may be mapping it out yourself. You're like, oh yeah, his Achilles tendon's tight because the right hemisphere is not firing properly. Right? So frontal lobe on the right side, let's say that this is right. Look at them from behind, that's left. So what do we have? We have this Achilles tendon that's inflamed and hurting right down here on the bottom of that foot. Okay? So what is going on? What is one thing that could possibly be going on that would cause this calf to contract? What do we know about neurology that would tell us that calf might contract for whatever reason, right? We might have decreased activity in the right hemisphere of the brain, especially in the frontal lobe. The right hemisphere of the brain is responsible for inhibiting flexor muscles. And this was the aha moment that we had today. This is the moment where she looked me in the eye and I looked her in the eye. I shook her hand and I was showing her what that meant. And I was like, what does the word inhibit mean? To keep from happening. We're going to keep something from happening if we inhibit. The frontal lobe inhibits, it turns off, it keeps from happening. Okay, frontal lobe is not, it's not so important. It's just a part of your brain, that's all. It's just like, okay, you don't have to, that's not necessarily important. That's kind of a what situation, right? Inhibits, there's a part of our brain that inhibits or turns off the flexor muscle. What? The flexor muscle. It inhibits or turns off the flexor muscle. Okay, what is the job of a flexor muscle? To flex. Okay, that's why they call it a flexor. What does an extensor do? Extends, right? An extensor muscle extends, like you're riding a motorcycle, right? If we all just pretended like we were riding a motorcycle, we wanted to go fast, what would we do? We'd roll our wrist, right? We would extend our wrist backward. The muscles responsible for putting our wrist in extension are called extensor muscles. The muscles that are responsible for putting our wrist in flexion are called flexor muscles. It's like extensors and flexors, right? Okay, one thing about flexor muscles is that if you don't turn them off, they will turn on. Their resting rate is on because we're born in flexion. And when we're born in flexion, what does that mean? If we're born in flexion, it means that we don't have a developed frontal lobe. At birth, we don't have that activity. It's not, remember when we talk about what part of the brain is actually developed at birth? It's that very low part of the brain. Reptilian is what they call it, right? It's a very low part of the brain. You don't have a lot of activity in the upper part of the brain at birth. And where are your hands? Where's the little baby's hands? Where's the little baby's legs? Like if I said you're going to get in the fetal position, what would you get in? What would you think to yourself if I said, okay, get in the fetal position right now? What would you think to yourself? You would think, I'm going to lay down and tuck and lay down and crunch down into this fetal position. I'm going to bend my knees. I'm going to bring my hips up. I'm going to flex my hips. I'm going to flex my knees. I'm going to bring my arms and shoulders in. I'm going to bring my head down, right? That would be the fetal position. What does that mean? That means you're in flexion all the way through your body. Why do they call it that? Because that's what you were as a fetus. And what was going on when you were a fetus? Not much in the frontal lobe, right? So the frontal lobe, the flexor muscles by default flex. So it's not that you're making them flex. It's that if you don't stop them from flexing, they just will flex. So how do you stop them from flexing? Your brain turns them off. It turns, not off, down. It turns the flexion of the muscle, it turns it down. Okay? Now turn it down some more. 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 And now you've got your wrist straight because it's not in flexion. When you lose your frontal lobe, as it starts to die, as it starts to go down, what happens to your wrist is it comes back into flexion. And when I explained that, I went through all that and I explained that and I was like, your brain inhibits the flexors. Okay? So where was the problem? The problem was in the right calf, the right Achilles tendon. So what is also going on that we can pretty much have confidence in and say, what is also going on at the same time that the calf is, that we're feeling it down at the Achilles insertion point. That's where it hurts, right? What else also going on? We've got decreased right hemisphere activation. We're losing that right hemisphere activation. So what can I do to help drive the right hemisphere? I can adjust on the left side of the body. I can adjust on the left shoulder, the left elbow, and the left wrist. I can use vibration on this left side. I can adjust on the left side of the body, and I can drive into the left side cerebellum and across to the right cortex. And I can ramp up the frontal lobe. I can ramp up the right side brain. If I ramp up that right side brain, what happens to the Achilles? Because this is hard. It's hard to get it in your head how it works. It just takes repetition because it's working negatively. It's not. I don't know exactly how to say it, but what if the frontal lobe begins to ramp up? If I get more activity in the brain, and the brain's responsibility is to inhibit the flexor, the more I ramp up the brain, the more the flexor turns off. It's like if I can get the brain higher, get the brain higher, get the brain higher, I can push the flexion down, I can push the flexion down, I can push the flexion down. And then I can relax the pull of the Achilles on the calcaneus. Did you just follow that? It's like, what have we had? We've had major life-changing incidents. This is things that have happened in the last 6 months. We've had major life-changing incidents that ended up with knee and foot pain. And one of them was plantar fasciitis. And when I pointed out that the plantar fasciitis is secondary to the brain, she's like, what? And I was like, yep. After your major event that you had in your life, then you got plantar fasciitis in your foot. When your right brain gave up and got fatigued, when you got brain fatigue, then you got orthopedic problems below. And now, once we solve the brain fatigue, then either physical, chemical, or mental, emotional, once we solve the brain fatigue, then the orthopedic problems started getting better. And it's happened in 2 out of the 3 people. We got a foot problem, we got a plantar fasciitis problem, and we got an Achilles problem. Well, I haven't had enough time to work on this Achilles problem. Now, is it the only thing that could cause the problem? And the answer to that question is no. It's not the only thing that could cause the problem, but it is a thing that could cause the problem. And so you want to rule out all the things, and you want to address all the things that you can't rule out with this Achilles. So did I adjust his ankle today? Yes. I adjust his foot. I adjust his talus. I went through the whole foot protocol of adjusting to try to make sure, okay, look, the foot needs to move properly regardless of what's going on in the brain. And I can tell you, it was very stiff. It was very hard to move. It wouldn't relax. It was very, very, very stiff. But so did we shockwave him? Yes, we shockwaved the tendon. We worked on the bottom of the foot. We shockwaved the tendon. We worked on the calf. I did manual PNF stretching on the calf, and just press and put the calf into flexion, press on it, hold, stretch it. Just kind of work on that calf a little bit. It was tender. And I didn't get the tenderness from the radial pressure wave. When we put the radial pressure wave on there, I said, tell me if any of this is tender. And he said, no, none of it's really tender, until I got a hold of it with my hands. And when I got a hold of it with my hands, it was like, he's like, ow, that hurts. And I was like, I thought there was a tender spot in there. He didn't think that was funny. He was like, probably almost kicked me with his other foot. But that you got to work through all of those scenarios. But the aha moment came when I explained it, because the person in the other room was listening to that whole thing. And then the person in the other room she actually is getting better. And I said, look, as we've worked on your brain and your foot at the same time, you're starting to see some results. And it's not quick. It's not quick work, but it's sound work. And when I explain your brain, and what we do is we shake hands. So I shake hand, we both grip hands, and we're shaking hands with each other. And I say, look, you have muscle contraction and I have muscle contraction. And that's an appropriate amount of contraction for a handshake. And then I said, but if my brain starts to drop, then all of a sudden, and I squeeze the hand harder. I said, if I lose brain activity, you're going to get an increased amount of contraction from your flexor. And then, man, the light went on. And it was like, aha, I saw it. And it's like, that's what I'm talking about right there. That was worth it. Every single bit of it, it was worth it right there. And I was like, man, that was great. Man, no wonder I felt so good today. It's like, that's life changing right there. You don't ever not get that. Like, you don't ever forget that. That's not something that you lose as life goes on. And, it's like that. That's a life changing moment right there. You can now walk better. You can function better. You can move better. You can live better because you got that concept. And on that, I run out of time. So we'll pick up tomorrow night at 6. You guys stick around with us tomorrow night. We'll be back. We'll try to be inspiring and try to teach you something. So if I can help you, let me know. Otherwise, you guys have a great evening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.